really want to know the history. History is not what the state wants to tell you. The state, somebody who governs, somebody who has an authority would never like you to know the truth, because truth is not suitable to them. So apart from the books which are available to you to be allowed to read, you must read the books which are giving you information otherwise. And history, I believe, is such a subject, probably the only subject in the world which is a weapon too. It can be weaponized. It is exactly as you have a gun in your hand, and it depends who has the gun, if it is a good person or is a bad person. So it will be used accordingly. And that's why you need to read things which otherwise may not be available. That material otherwise may not be available. So similarly, so this is actually, Volga se Ganga is a literature. It's a pure literature. It's a pure form of art. So going from there, and then I have also worked on the translation of the major book on partition, which is a recently published book by Professor Ishtiaq Ahmed from Stockholm. He's originally from Lahore, and his book, Punjab, Bloodied, Partition and Cleansed, which I have translated in Punjabi, which is here. As you can see, oh, this is a very big book, and it has got a complete information, what happened, what transpired in 1947. All the things which you have learned so far were somehow biased either from this side or from that side. So in order to clear that bias, this book is very important. So again, this is part of history. And partition, how partition of Punjab, not only partition of India, but particularly part of Punjab, partition of Punjab, how this is such an event in human history which must be studied with very open mind. That is the only way for us to be able not to do that again. There is no other way. Otherwise, we'll keep on doing what we have done in 47. So we must read that book. Now, I want to go further on my work on, which is actually the main subject. Now, modern art, as we call it, or contemporary art, we call it now, it's a movement which has provided us with a lot of freedom. That is the major contribution of the modern art traditions. The portraits have been done in the past, and they will be doing in the future as well, obviously. But there was a concept that when you do a portrait, which means you are portraying somebody's face, and that's a classical description of the word portrait. It is the portrayal of somebody's face, or maximum a bust. If it is a full form, that could be called life. Sometimes they call it portrait too. But it is just about the person's appearance. But by taking that freedom which the art has provided us today, I wished to portray people's lives rather than faces, what they have done, what they were famous for, what incident transpired for them to be the great people. That is, I tried to include in those, with those faces or figures, which I would like to show you now. And secondly, I have chosen characters who really stood against the authority, stood against the taboos, and they rebel for good, for the good of humanity. They challenged authority, they challenged the taboos, by becoming an example for themselves. It's not just theory, but they practically lived to teach people what is good, what is bad, and they contributed their own. Let me see. Okay. Now I have chosen individuals, first of all, who were not very famous, but they should have been. They are unsung heroes. I started with unsung heroes. That was the whole idea for me, to search for people who worked tirelessly all their life, even gave their life. They were killed, some of them, but they were not given a due credit. As an artist, I could have painted them, so I painted them. If I was a writer of that type, I would have written about their lives. And there are characters in my series whose life has been written in the shape of novels or other books. But I did my best as the medium which I master, or at least I try to. And so these people are rebels who use their own medium. If they are writer, they are rebellion in writing. If they are activists, they cross all limits for their activism. And then there are simple victims too, victims of inhuman behavior. And just by defending themselves, they are becoming great people. And I'll give you the examples for that. And if I take you now to my slideshow, I'll present it now. I've got about 20, 25 portraits I would like to show you. I have categorized them. For example, revolutionary, activists, martyrs, partition. Then you've got rebel scholars. Then you've got people who inspired us for doing good. So let's see if I present now to my folder. Okay. Yeah. Can I be seen on the screen, please? Okay. Right. Now, could you please see? Can I communicate with somebody? Can somebody tell me something on the screen?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. This is portrait of Makhan Singh. Most of the people, I would say 99% of who are listening may not be even know who was Makhan Singh. Makhan Singh was a great unifier in East Africa. He was a person of Indian origin from West Punjab, born in early 20th century. He migrated to Kenya, which was then part of the British Empire. India was under the British Empire, same as Kenya, same as Uganda. And that's why the whole of East Africa was just called East Africa rather than Kenya or Uganda. It was a joint kingdom. Makhan Singh was a great unionist. He was a freedom fighter in Kenya. He fought for the freedom of East African countries. And he was the only person who joined the struggle of the two people, the Black Africans and the Indians, because they were initially fighting separately. They had their own prejudices. They were not together. Even they were being bullied by a foreign power equally, but they were still fighting separately. They had separate unions, and the authorities are making use of their divisions. So Makhan Singh was a person who took up that task and made a combined force to fight for their freedom. And ultimately he succeeded. And you see the people I painted in the background in a way that they should be visible. At the same time, they shouldn't be visible. They should be visible because they are the ones who are his comrades. They are the ones with whom he fought. And they all are very famous people in Africa today. For example, a person on the left here is Mr. Kenyatta, who became the president. It is exactly as in 1947, we had Jawaharlal Nehru, who became the prime minister. So Mr. Kenyatta became the president in the same, almost roughly the same time. So, and all other people who are behind him, they were big ministers or prominent people who were all fought together. And you see this chain is a kind of symbol I painted. And the organization which he made, the Labor Trade Union of East Africa. So they are all joined by one chain through this union. So it was a great contribution, and he suffered punishment. He was not allowed to come to India when he wanted to. He had to come here by changing his face and changing his name. So he suffered, and he was put into prison as well. But he kept on fighting. So people should search about him. If they really wish to know about him more, they should go. We have got a lot of information today. There are books about him. His biography was printed a few years ago. Makhan Singh is famously known as Comrade Makhan Singh. Now I come to the next. This is the suffragette. How many people would recognize her? I'm not sure. Just have a guess. This is Sophia Dalip Singh. Who was she? And what she's famous for? Sophia Dalip Singh was the granddaughter of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, the daughter of Dalip Singh. No, she was not famous for being daughter of a royal Punjab family, but she was famous for being a suffragette. She was one of the ladies who fought for women's rights in Britain. As we all know that Dalip Singh was taken to Britain, he was brought up there, and that's a history which one should know anyway. But out of his daughters, Sophia stood a rebel. In this picture, you can see the Queen's Palace in the background. This was a palace in front of which she was given her residence, her flat, or part of the royal building. And you see a prime minister's car behind her and a tilted throne of Ranjit Singh. Now, they all are symbols. And behind the palace, above the skies, you see the aeroplanes, the fighter planes of the First World War. Now, all they symbolizes something or the other. They all are important. And you see the piece of cloth which she is covered with, there is a small print on that, "Give woman the vote." Now, that was a slogan of the suffragettes, "Give woman the vote." And she has took such extreme measures to propagate her ideas, to propagate her demand, that she had thrown herself under the prime minister's car at one occasion. And that is why I painted that car. Now, there's something very important to know, that there are so many suffragettes who were made famous, who made names apart from her. She was not given her due. The reason was that authorities here would not like to know who is she. They didn't want people to know who is she, because if they say she is a royal family, how come she is Indian? If she is Indian, who is she? Where does she come from? Who was Dalip Singh? They had to explain what happened to Dalip Singh. So, in order to avoid that, the British tried their best to hush her up. And it's only now when we realize what happened. So then I decided that she should be given her due in history. It's very important. Apart from other British suffragettes, she has an equal participation, if not more. And I will show you another character from the same group who was a British herself, a white British suffragette. I will show you her as well, which I painted. But she does exactly, she has same dues as the other ones. So let's go to the next one. Yeah. How many of you know who was Gulab Kaur? Maybe a few. Only since last few years. Those who have studied history must study about the Ghadar party movement, the Ghadar movement. I'm sure the teachers would be kind enough to tell their students about the history of the Ghadar movement. Ghadar movement you can read about a lot, but I'm currently talking about certain characters I have painted from the Ghadar movement. Udham Singh is one of them, which I will show you. Kartar Singh Saraba is one of the most important. And then Gulab Kaur, the women participants. It's very important. People usually comment that there were no women's names in our freedom for struggle movement, but there were. And I tried my best to find such women who did great jobs, but they were snubbed. Their history was hushed. So, Gulab Kaur. Gulab Kaur was a Ghadarite who worked with the Ghadar members here in India. And her great participation was, she was helping in communication between the Ghadar members who were in hiding. So they had to carry a lot of literature. They had to carry weapons against the British occupancy. And that is why she was playing a great role in that. And most importantly, when she and her husband decided, as the story goes, to come to India, you know, all Ghadarites, they were famous for coming to India from abroad. They were settled abroad. It's like today, so many Indians are settled abroad, USA, America, Canada, Australia. And they were well-versed. They were perfectly fine. And same as the East Asia as well, Singapore, Malaysia. So she, along with her husband, were going to settle in those foreign lands when she and her husband both decided to come back and fight against the occupancy, against the occupation, against the tyranny of Britain. But her husband decided not to. And as the story goes, she told him that he can proceed to go abroad and enjoy his life, but she will come back. And she did come back. She was caught. She was put to prison, and she was tortured in the Lahore fort, which is famous for torturing the inmates, the political inmates. And that's why this painting I named as The Cell. You know, it's a confinement, solitary confinement. And you see all symbols there. The bars are with the British flag. The poster behind the wall, behind the cell on the wall, it's the first copy of the Gadar newspaper, which was originally published in Urdu. And then they published in Gurmukhi and other languages as well, including Punjabi, Bengali, and Gujarati, etc. And the flag is a Gadar flag. So all these things. I hope the students would know more about Gulab Kaur and her participation in the Gadar movement and ultimately in the freedom struggle. Now, again, we have another woman character. I'm not sure how many of you know Madam Kama. This is how she is known as Madam Kama, because it's a Persian name because she was a Parsi. She belonged to a Parsi family. Mostly, they are from Bombay or Gujarat area. So there she was. Most of these families are rich families. Even then they were rich families. So she was able to come to Britain during the plague, where she was helping the patients in India, in Mumbai, where she caught the plague, and she was able to come to Britain for treatment. But here she came into contact with other revolutionaries, and she started her revolutionary activities, for which she was banned to come back to India. And you see the colors in the background which I painted. They have a great significance. These are the color ultimately became color with a slight change. They became the color of the national flag. And they are the same color what the Gadars used, although the red and green were other way around. The Gadarites used the red on top, green at the bottom, and the flag which she has chosen, which she has designed along with certain other few comrades. So all these things. So I felt this is important. This is a character which we should know more about. So I paid my homage to these characters of history. Now, this is the activist I talked about earlier. She's Emily. Now, who was Emily? She was, again, suffragette. Now, this is the British suffragette who, along with Sophia Dalip Singh and others, she fought for the women's revolts. And you see this flag. This was the suffragettes' flag with these violet, green, and white colors. And it says the same thing, give woman the vote. And votes for women, you can see here, votes for women. Now, the elements you see behind, the horse, the people, the gathering behind it, and the flag, is all signifying. And most importantly, you see, there is a royal crown on the head of the horse. What happened was that she was so courageous. She wanted to propagate her idea of her movement. She went to this horse racing venue, and she wanted to put a flag or a banner on the horse, which was a queen's or king's horse. And she was trampled by the horse. It was an accident. She came underneath. And after a few days, she died. So basically, she sacrificed herself for her cause. Emily Davison. So I felt it important that such characters should be highlighted more than they have been. They deserve more in history, in their place in history. So we'll go to the next one. Similarly, the Chartists. I'm sure if you are learning history of the world, you would know, or you might have already known, the Chartist movement. Just as the suffragette movement in Britain we had the Chartist movement. They were probably the first revolutionaries to challenge the government. It was the first workers movement. They wanted workers' rights to be secured. The workers should be treated more humanely, like human beings. So this was a gentleman, William Coffey, who is hardly known in history. But who knows? He was the secretary of the Chartists. He became a major Chartist. He became the first person to announce a workers' strike in Britain history. Because he was a tailor by profession, so he organized a tailors' union, and they striked against the government in favor for demanding for the better rights, better conditions. And for his crime, as the government put it, he was sent to exile in Australia, where he died in a very poor condition. He was son of a slave, although his mother was a local British, a white woman. But he was the son of a slave who ultimately rose to become a Chartist. And I felt it is very important that people should know who were the Chartists, who were William Coffey. And you see, that's why all the elements are in the background. The name of his Metropolitan Charts Association, which he's done. He's suing a banner with the word strike on it, and an 18th century ship in the background. It all points out all historical elements as well as the heroic actions of William Coffey. Staying with the British characters, I think it's very important for the students to know. I'm sure even the British children don't even know about these two characters. It is Annie and Tom. Their surname was Higdon. They were husband and wife. They were teachers, school teachers. There is a museum now dedicated to them where they taught, and it's a school. You can see in the background there, it says school, strike school. So their school became a museum. The story was that those days, the schools were mainly, they were managed by the church. And the church in Europe was a huge authority. They were not only authority, they were authoritative. They were authoritarian. They were dictators. They could dictate terms even to the government. But it happens around the world anyway. The religion dictates through politician, and a politician dictates through religion. So two characters, these two, Mr. Tom and his wife, they were not the kind of ordinary teachers. They were humanitarians. They were humanists. They did not want the children to suffer. What was happening those days, that there were landlords around the schools. Because the land belonged to the landlords, they used to consider the school, the teachers, the students, is all of their property. It is their property. They can do what they like. And the schools and the landlords, and the church, they were all hand in hand. The church and the landlords were together. They were not caring for children's health, education. Whenever there was a time for the crops to cut or do work in the crops in the fields, they used to take children from the school to work them in the fields. And they would not provide them a good environment for their daily lives too. But Mr. Tom challenged, and his wife, who was a headmistress, Tom was a teacher. They both challenged the church, they both challenged the landlords, and they stopped sending children to the fields. This rose a conflict, which is obviously, it had to be a conflict. Ultimately, the conflict rose so much that they were sacked. The church dismissed both teachers from the schools. And as soon as the news was broadcasted, people, whenever people knew about it, immediately, whole school, not only the whole school, but the whole village went on strike. Their slogan was, "We want our teachers back. We want our teachers back." It was such a moment which you can see, it was such a glimpse which you can see even today in Delhi, what's happening. When people demand their justified rights, the authorities cannot ignore them. This is our history. This has been happening in the history, and it will be happening in the history. The movement was so strong that Tom and Annie took one hall opposite. It was a workshop of a carpenter, and they started their own school there. And whole school, all children migrated to their school, and the church school was empty. And it is now 100 years of that happening. It happened in 1914 during the First World War. That school kept on running until Tom and then Annie were alive. Only later on, then the government, obviously, the things changed, the authorities changed, we became more civilized, we knew how to behave better. So now that school is a museum. And I'm pleased to announce that I was invited there on their centenary celebration, and I painted this for their centenary celebration for that school. Now, let's go to the next topic. Martyrs. I think I'm not taking too much time, I suppose, explaining certain things, but let me see. Could you please see? Pioneer of freedom. I'm not sure if some of you, I will be pleased if some of you would recognize the face. It's a Khudiram Bose. He was 17-year-old when he was hanged. It's one of our freedom fighter whom I call pioneer. He's a pioneer. He's the revolutionary who was probably one of the first revolutionaries to be hanged for fighting for freedom. And you see that the way I painted it, there was a very old newspaper. It may be still available if you find in Google. You will see Khudiram Bose standing with two policemen. One of them is a white policeman, one of them is an Indian policeman. In the original photo, he has been tied with the rope, and the rope is handled by one of the policemen, but I put the chain, you can see the Indian policeman is also chained. So there is a hierarchy I wanted to show. So there was a chain in the British hands who actually enslaved us, and then they make us to enslave our own people. So that's a kind of situation which is a shameful, but that's history. That's why history is important. We have to know the history which is uncomfortable. That's the whole point. Mostly we do not like history which is uncomfortable. Now, this is Kartar Singh Saraba. Why I have to name him, because you will see most pictures which are painted with the turban. He may have been wearing turban, I don't know, but this painting is from his original photograph, which is the only photograph of that time, which is now available in Berkeley University in the USA. He is one of the Gaddarites who was a major inspiration for the movement. And he was only, I think, 19 or 18 when he was hanged. Imagine, he went to USA, he comes back with all the literature, and he organized the movement, and he's even hanged at 19. How much he would have done in history. Such a young person, young man. Now you see the hanging rope is I put around that machine, the printing press, which was printing the Ghadar magazine. That was the whole idea of the authorities. Authorities always do that. Authorities, the authoritative regimes, the dictators, they are not afraid of people. They are afraid of the inspiration that those people would give to the others. And those people then spread their messages through press. At that time, it was press. Now you have social media. Imagine if you don't have a social media today, you would be enslaved again, because that's what the authorities do. Whenever they find the normal channel of information they have controlled, and that is their power, controlling the channel of information. That's what they do. So the Ghadar newspaper was a channel of information to spread the idea of freedom through their newspaper, Ghadar, which was printed in USA, and it was being spread around the world, especially in India, by Kartar Singh Saraba. So this was just an idea I painted. I'm not sure, most of you should know, but the face, how it looks, will not be recognized so easily. The name recognized instantly, but not the face. Why? That is our tragedy. This is the original photograph of Shaheed Udham Singh. This is a photo from his passport, which he photographed himself in Lahore, I think, or Amritsar, I'm not sure. But this was the photo he used in his passport to come to Britain. And we all know why he wanted to come to Britain. Udham Singh. Now, I named this painting as The Statement. What is important is the statement which he gave in the court in his defense, which was he was initially not allowed to speak to. Ultimately, when he knew and when everybody knew he's going to be hanged anyway, this will be his punishment. They will hang him. He was ultimately allowed to say whatever he wanted to say. And this is what he said. And what he said, I painted. And in the background, you will see the person who, the solicitor who questioned him, what he said, which is not important, but I still painted, which can be read. But what he replied is more important. So this statement is now available on the net. You can go and find out what he said. These are exactly his words. And these are the words, why they are important to know, for us to know, that these are the words which the magistrate at that time had ordered not to be released ever. And they were hidden from us for a long time, nearly 100 years. It's only in the late 90s when the law changed, Freedom of Information Act came and all that stuff. So we got these papers out from the court, and now we know what he said. And obviously it is fiery. It gives a lot of depth of knowledge to us that what he said, how much he knew, how much aware he was. He was not just an ordinary martyr. He had a whole knowledge of history, what's going on. He knew how the revolutions come. He knew why we are fighting for, not just Jallianwala Bagh. That is a very discrediting him. fought. He was not there only for Jallianwala Bagh. He was there for overall what the country was going through, and he knew that who's responsible. Okay, let's go back. Okay, further. Staying with the characters, the martyrs. Again, obscure character, people who should be known but are not known. I call him the accused. Sorry, the accused, the person who was accused of conspiracy. Who was he? His name is Hassan Nasir. He was murdered by the Pakistani army or Pakistani state in the 1950s or 1968. He was one of the Communist Party of India's member at the time of partition. He was sent there to organize a labor's or workers' movement to fight for the rights of the workers. He organized a new party there, which was immediately banned. And he, along with so many other famous names, he was arrested, whereas others were released. There is a famous case called, I think, Rawalpindi conspiracy case. He was badly tortured in the same fort where we have talked about earlier, the Gulab Kaur. He was tortured so brutally that he died of his tortures, of his wounds. Even his body was not being recognized by anybody. So there is a long story about and he originally belonged to Hyderabad, India. And his mother went there to get his body, and her mother had refused to recognize that it's not her son. So she came back empty-handed. She did not bring the body with her because she said it is not his body. And again, you see the symbolism. Those days, Pakistan and USA were hand in hand in curbing the revolutionary people around the world. And this broken window, you can see, or it's again a cell. Like I painted cell earlier, this is a different type of cell I painted of the prison. Okay. Okay. Next. Again, we have got one more martyr, which is very less known, of in Punjab, the movement after the partition, after the independence. Mostly the Ghadar members had declared that they have achieved their goal. Now the country is independent, so they are stopping their movement. But Buja Singh did not stop. He later on joined other revolutionary movements which were prevailing at that time in India. Various organizations he joined. So you see there, I painted two pictures there of the same person. The picture in behind, at the back, is Buja Singh. When he was Ghadarite abroad in Argentina, he went to other countries. He went around the world propagating the idea of Ghadar. But you see the picture at the front is when he was in India, in his old age. He was nearly 80 years old, when our own government killed him in the 70s. With any government whatsoever, because the rebels, they demand their rights, which are uncomfortable for the states. There's a long history about him, but I'm talking about the symbolism here in the painting. There is a moon at the background because he was killed at night. And there are two guns pointed to him. First is the British, in the back one is the British gun. There is a very small, I think very small symbol here, you can see. See there, there's a symbol there, British flag. This gun is the Indian flag. So same person who was targeted by the two various regimes. And interestingly, those regimes were fighting with each other at one time. And his game was like a game. He like a gamble. He gambled. That's why I put these gambling cards. This was just a way of expressing my feelings about Buja Singh. Now, this is one of the recent portraits of the martyrs. I think you might have seen it on social media elsewhere. Why I have been long time thinking of not painting Bhagat Singh, because Bhagat Singh has achieved his place in history. He's very well known now, even around the world. And I was thinking that he has been painted so many times that he got what he deserved. He really deserved a place in history. And this is what he has been already given his due. But then later on, I thought of painting a Bhagat Singh of my time. What is happening today is more or less has been happening in his time, or what he fought for. People are still fighting today for the same, in the same circumstances. There are students, there are farmers, there are writers, there are poets, there are intellectuals, especially for certain years now. For some years, we have seen what is happening in the subcontinent. People are being killed for just saying, for writing, for opening their mouths by various right-wing organizations who have a support of the state. By all means, I can say that. So I tried to paint Bhagat Singh of my times. You see, there are a lot of farmers in this painting, although it's already 2 years I have painted this, but it showed that farmer movement is not new. You see, a few years ago, we had this very famous long march of farmers in Maharashtra. See, there was a sea of farmers in Maharashtra. That's a few years ago. Then you got this same organization, which is now, you can see active today, All India Conference, All India Kisan Sabha. Then there are various student organizations, JNU, Tamil Nadu farmers on this side. Then Kabir Kala Manch, Not on My Name, all these organizations. And then there is also you see some characters in this corner who have placards in Urdu. Now this is, you will see mostly every year on Bhagat Singh's Martyrdom Day. There are people who demand that square where he was killed, he was martyred, it should be named by his name. So these are the few comrades in Lahore who are demanding that the place where he was martyred, where there was a prison those days, should be named after him. So all these things I combined to make a Bhagat Singh of my time. And then there are certain elements which you can see in the background. It's the tools of the workers, which actually symbolizes Bhagat Singh's struggle, whom he was fighting for the workers' rights. And the books he was reading, famously, he was reading Lenin's autobiography, written by Clara Zetkin, the author. And he has read Das Kapital of Marx. He was a very well-read person. He was not just a martyr. And most importantly, there has always been a discussion, I won't say a conflict, but a discussion or maybe sometime argumentative discussion why that whether Bhagat Singh should be with a turban or with a hat. There are people's claims there are conspiracies for propagating one picture or the other, one image or the other. And I wanted to portray him in both the images. For me, I think both are important. He has been in hat, we know, under certain circumstances. But he has always been in turban as well, which we know. Which also means for me that for him, removing turban was not a taboo, was not a problem. And keeping turban was not a problem either. He was a very open-minded person. He was attached to his roots. At the same time, he was a rebel and a revolutionary too. And that's why I painted his image with the turban like a statue, because this has become a trend now. Usually you see statues with the turban, whereas previously the printed images you would see with the hat, the famous hat, felt hat. So this was a little bit of a creative ideas I put together so that I could paint Bhagat Singh in a way which may not have been painted in the past, because I wanted to do something new, and that's an artist always does. I have painted some characters who have a deep connection with partition. Although I was writing, I wanted to portray writers and other activists, but how they are connected with the partition is important. The most important is Saadat Hasan Manto. First you see what is visible in the portrait. The portrait is called the thunderstorm. You can see the thunderstorm raging from top to bottom across the canvas. And there is a tree, the fallen leaves, which strengthen the idea of how fierce that thunderstorm could be. As a matter of fact, this thunderstorm, the image, the line is actually a partition line. You can see the Indo-Pak border going from here to there, even the Kashmir line. Those who knows Saadat Hasan Manto as a writer, they would know how the partition and the Manto are synonymous in this matter. This portrait is more to look at rather than to talk about. We must know how he suffered, how he viewed the gruesome realities of partition, which cut his life in two parts. He born and lived in India. He died in Pakistan. Last less than 10 years. And during that very short period, small life, he produced a world-class literature on partition. So it's my homage to Saadat Hasan Manto. Coming to the partition, we know what is the most famous piece of literature we have in Punjabi today. It's not only in Punjabi, I think this poem is the best poem which depicts partition in poetry, in an art form. We know all this. Aj akhan waris shah nu kite kabran vichon bolu. Now I put this poem in both the scripts, the Gurmukhi and Shahmukhi. And again, the same borderline, the partition line. And you got Amrita Pritam at the front and Waris Shah's mausoleum in the background there. So there are major three elements: the partition, the Amrita, the Waris Shah, But I named the portrait as the poem because that is the most important element, is the poem itself. It is so powerful. I wanted to write the poem rather than paint. I will take your views later on this. And staying with the partition, this is the portrait of Abdul Ghaffar Khan. I'm sure people would recognize him. But what are the elements there? How it is connected to partition? We all know that he was against the partition. That's why he was called Sarhaddi Gandhi, the frontier Gandhi. When we know all what happened, ultimately it happened. The tragedy struck, the border was marked. It's at that time that famously he had said to Prime Minister Nehru that you have thrown us to the wolves. It's those wolves which I wanted to paint at the back and which I did. If you see, he's on the western side of the border and the rose, which symbolizes Nehru those days. And the barbed wire is again the borderline here. And I named him the Patriot. He was the Patriot because those days, anybody who is a Muslim and who would speak against the partition was called a traitor by those who wanted the partition. That's why I named him the Patriot. Staying with the partition, this is, I would say, the most gruesome incident, one of the most gruesome incidents. But there is a hero in this incident. There were hundreds and thousands of incidents, hundreds and thousands of killed, but just killing or being killed is not that something which makes the story. It's the characters who should be remembered what they did. This is the portrait of Gahal Singh Chajalwaddi. Chajalwaddi was his village. It is a village still near Amritsar, probably in Tarntan area. Nobody knows his story, and very few would like to know his story, because the people who were responsible for the butchery, for the crime, they have been in power for a long time, even of partition, or they have been associated with the power. We all know that there were three major groups, the Hindus, Sikhs, and the Muslims those days, who were killing each other. At the same time, there are a lot of people who were on the human side. They did not want the innocent people should be killed or maimed or raped. So Gahal Singh was one of them who did not want any innocent Muslims should be killed or tortured. And for this crime, he was picked up from his village, as I have read in his daughter's interview and his wife's interview in a magazine some time ago. He was picked up from the village. The people who came to abduct him came on a jeep. He was on a bike, so he was abducted and cut into pieces. This story is very gruesome to tell on screen. Those who are interested can email me. I can send them the whole story, and I've got this newspaper and the magazine interviews with me. So Gahal Singh Chajalwaddi was one of the heroes who was forgotten intentionally. He was being made to be forgotten intentionally. Even now, people would not like him to be known. He should be known. And there are many more characters from other side too, from the Western side. There are many Muslim great humanists who tried to save Sikhs and Hindus. So I would like one day to find them and to paint them as well. Okay. Is it going on okay, or should I just take a break? Is there any questions in between you want to make, so that we should break a should we break a monotony a little bit? Anju? No?
Good evening, sir.
Yeah. I'm wondering if we can break the bit of a monotony and talk about, if anybody wants to talk about something, and is there any question in between before I take the next hold. No? Okay.
No, sir, we haven't received any queries yet.
Okay. So let me proceed further with the next few folders. Okay. Now I'm coming to the rebel scholars, as we have already talked about Volga Seganga. He is the author. I painted him as the Indiologist. You know, Indiology, just as history, there is a particular branch in anthropology. It's with Indiology. So it's all about the study of Indian history and Indian culture. So there is in Germany, especially in Russia, there are departments in the universities, Department of Indiology, you would be pleased to know if you don't know, which are associated subjects with history. And history, it combines history with culture. So I painted him as Indiologist because he was one of our greatest Indiologists who knew so much. So even in this one, this portrait, I painted him as a picture of India itself. You can see the border, the map line, the south, the north, the east, the west, and the Himalayas. And what symbolizes the west, the Indus seal symbols, east is the Buddhist, and the sign of communist movement. And in south, you've got the image of Nataraja. So it covers everything because he wrote, studied, and participated himself in the freedom movement. In almost all aspects of human life, he wrote about, experienced himself, went abroad, learned 32 languages of the world. So Rahul Sankrityayan must be studied, and I feel that he is more and more and more important today. When you will read his biography, which I am translating, when you will read his Volga Seganga and all other 150 books, you would know who he was. Sometimes just by saying about certain individuals doesn't really portray who they are. You will have certain questions in your mind, surely, that why he is painted like this. But combining with their text, combining with their writings, you would know more about them. Again, the rebel scholar, again, who is not much known, is Lal Singh Dil. People who know now the Punjabi literature have slowly started knowing about Lal Singh Dil, the poet. He is one of the poets which the movement of the communist movement of the 70s has given to us. There are many poets, writers who came out of those movements. Similarly, Lal Singh Dil. Lal Singh Dil was a Dalit He was born in a very poor family. He lived all his long in a poor family, but he has given rich literature, poetry. So I painted him showing the caste divisions in the background. The group he belonged to, and then you see layers of red, the silver, the gold. Gold is the ruling class, and the religions normally belong to the ruling class. And then you got a silver, which is the trading class. And then you got a tools underneath, worker class, and then the untouchables, to which Lal Singh born, and he suffered humiliation. He had to change religions, tried different methods to get identified, to be treated as a human being. At the end, he wasn't. But in the process, he produced such rich literature, which is worth reading. Lal Singh Deo. Okay. Similarly, we have rationalist movement. Although some of the characters I have already shown you, like Rahul Sankirtan was also a rationalist. A rationalist is a person who believes in science, who do not believe in superstitions, is a rationalist. So many of our other great artists, writers, poets, revolutionaries, they were rationalists. But there is a certain people who actually worked for rationalism, who actually worked for the people to be aware of the dangers of superstitions, and who actually fought for the rights of the marginalized people, of the exploited people, and they made people aware of the exploitation. So this is portrait of Periyar E.V. Ramasamy. This is a hero of the Tamil people. Many people in the north, unfortunately, don't know this. They don't hear those things. But he is the person who started a movement where, for the first time in South India, the education was taken out of the hands of the monopoly of the Brahmins. As it had been going on for thousands of years, the education was not provided to the non-Brahmins or to the so-called low caste people. This is his biggest achievement and his biggest participation in building the modern Indian society was in the South. He propagated the rights of minorities and equality. He propagated equality. And he made people aware about the inhuman ideology of Brahmanism, which I painted in this picture. The snake at the bottom is a symbol of Brahmanism, which as he had put once in his poem as well. And you see this map, which is very vaguely shown, is south is on the top, north is at the bottom. Because it's just a geography. It depends which way you are standing. If you are standing looking at the south, you will see it like this. But we are used to of looking toward the north. So then we see Kashmir on the top, but it is not necessary. If you just look the other way, you will see the other side. So I put it, the map that way. His side is up, our side is down. Area, and I call it the defender. He defended the rights of the marginalized people. Similarly, in the series of rationalists, I have now painted the challenger. Who was the challenger? Who was Dr. Abraham Kabur? Again, it's in my series of portraying people who are very less known, who should be given due credit in history. Dr. Kapoor was born in a Christian family in Kerala. And he's famous for starting the rationalist movement in India, the rational societies. Rational societies fight against the tyranny of superstitions. You know, exactly as Nanak has done, he had made people aware against the superstitions, but we needed a modern tools. So Dr. Kapoor, who was a professor, and he later taught in the university in Sri Lanka, and even died there. He lived most of the time in Sri Lanka, but he started the movement in India, in Kerala. And what you see here is a kind of a betting here, a challenge with the person who is symbolizing kind of a superstitious or kind of Baba as we had these days, the religious figures, so-called, and a check, a bank check. So what it all shows, it is a story, and it's not merely a story, a real incident, and it still stays today, that he had challenged anybody who show any spectacle, any miracle, people call miracles. If he shows a miracle, and if Dr. Kapoor cannot prove, cannot disclose what he person has done, what was the miracle, he can take 1 lakh rupee from him. And it is, you imagine, this is the 70s, 1970s. So he challenged people. So it is that challenge I painted here, Dr. Kapoor.
मैं एक बार वो बोल रही है तो भूल ले रहा है
I showed you last 2 pictures which are completely different from each other. Here is a victim too. Hopefully most people would now recognize the imagery, the outcast I named her. She was not a scholar, she was not a revolutionary, she was not a writer, she was simply a victim of a heinous crime against which she stood up. It's a matter of debate whether she was good, bad, or not, but or how she lived after the incident. It's irrelevant to me. For me, what is important is what happened to her and how did it happen while there are so many people around her here, which I painted them as monkeys, because the crimes which were committed against her are being committed most of the time in our rural areas, in the knowledge of the people. And it's then the same people then treat them, when they become famous, they treat them like devis, like the goddess figures, or the vagabonds. So it's a drama which I wanted to paint here. It's a satire, basically, of the Phulan Devi. Now, I'll take back to you to the last screen of portraits. This is Professor Lally. He's a very extraordinary figure. About him, there are no words to describe. There are people who know him would only know who he was. I painted him, I titled the painting as The Master. He was the master. Professor Lally, in brief description, was a professor of linguistics, anthropology in University Patiala, Punjab University Patiala. In the 1970s and 80s, he was most active in inspiring all forms of art, literature, music, theater, painting, and making people aware about what is happening in the world in the field of all those art forms. For us, those who came in touch with him, for us, he was a window to the world of knowledge. He has read so much. He could communicate to us in a way that then we took inspirations. And today, there are major names in the world who have created their name because of him. They are writers, poets, theater personalities. So again, it's such a character who could be only described by this painting in visuals with so many books. And the symbols which symbolize his simplicity, the bicycle, his village, his ruined Haveli, his simple bag, the Indian bag which he used to carry. He was simply an image of simplicity and knowledge. And I have written a detailed article about him, so as many others. Anybody who is interested, that article can be taken and read. But I would like the students to do some research on these characters and other characters if they want to know how it is important for us to record the moments, record the personalities in certain permanent form, like the painting, like the books, so that the things which have been lost, they should be taken back and preserved. So preservation is again another great job of history. Thank you. And art.
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable insights. I'm just thinking about how it is a wonderful and unique combination of art and history. In fact, now students, researchers, and art history lovers will have a better understanding of relation between art and history, and your valuable knowledge would help the participants in the long run to enlighten their knowledge. It is such a wonderful combination how you have opted the heroes from the history of world from different fields such as poets, writers, freedom fighters, and scholars. So I think it is such a such the greatest homage to our heroes who are struck between the definition of unsung and celebrated in a symbolic way. Through your paintings, you have successfully back to the time of gathered movements and the partition of the country, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Now I would like to invite Dr. Surinder Kaur, head of the Department of History of our college, to deliver our vote of thanks.
Thank you, Anju. On behalf of Sardar Gurdev Singh Barar, President of Sikh Educational Society, Colonel Sardar Jasmeer Singh Bala, Secretary of Sikh Education Society, and the Principal of Guru Gobind Singh College for Women and the staff, I will take this opportunity to present the vote of thanks to those who have made vital contribution to this webinar. At the outset, I would like to thank our eminent speaker, Mr. Kamal Dhaliwal. Sir, we are very apprised by your indispensable knowledge and presence. Today's webinar was crammed with erudition and interesting facts. I'm sure that after today's session, all of us would be surely galvanized by your wisdom and knowledge. We have got deep insights into the topic and lives of our historical heroes, where there are writers, poets, social activists, freedom fighters, and scholars. Your selection, you have selected ordinary souls who became extraordinary, merely by being subjected to live under such circumstances that turned them into the rare examples of human endurance of pain and humiliation. Once again, I would like to thank you, sir, for sparing your time and enlightening us with your knowledge. Thank you so much. I would also like to thank our principal ma'am, Dr. Jitinder Kaur, for giving us the encouragement to organize this webinar at such a huge level. I also extend my thanks to Dr. Anjubala and Dr. Jaspreet Kaur for their enormous efforts in organizing this event. We have been very fortunate to be backed by Ms. Ramandeep Kaur and Mr. Abhishek, the technical team of our college, who worked very hard for making this event successful. And also thanks to all the participants for sharing their time and participating wholeheartedly. We are very grateful to all for being with us this evening. With these warm words, we conclude today's webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much from me as well. Thank you, all of you.